Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to go over the ignition weapon buffs for Doris and Raihanna. We're going to look at what changed in their stat effects, and we're also going to talk about the units that can now benefit the most from these buffs. We're going to start with Raihanna because the buff to this ignition weapon were not really that great, and most of the units that were running Raihanna are still running it, and there are not really any additional units that want this set. It's unfortunate they missed a lot of opportunities from my point of view, but yeah, it is what it is. Let's get started and quickly get over Raihanna so that we can talk about Doris a bit more. So for the side effect, the two-piece is exactly the same, so 20% attack increase. The only change is that it is now unremovable, so really good stuff. For the four-piece effect, the first part up until the 300% attack increase on the first hit is the same. What they changed is that the silence is now 5 seconds instead of 3. This is pretty good because on the units that were normally running Raihanna, they also had a CC on the first hit, so there was a lot of overlapping. Now with a 5-second silence, normally at the very least you can benefit a bit from it. So maybe if you have a 3-second CC, then you have the 2-second silence that you can leverage. And having some AoE attacks as the first hit could also help you land a silence for 5 seconds on all enemies, which is pretty massive. So that part is okay, is a decent increase. But then when you lose the ambition effect, which is the one that lets your first attack do more damage, etc., you're going to gain 300 energy every 10 seconds and a 5-second status effect immunity, again, every 10 seconds. This is not really that great because normally the unit with Raihanna will usually die, or at the very least you're running Raihanna units that if they die afterwards you don't really care. So it's kind of not that easy to use. You would need a team that can keep that unit alive for long enough for that unit to benefit. So I don't really like it, but it's okay. I think the best user of this would be Beta, for example, in terms of like leveraging the energy increase. Unfortunately, will not leverage the status effect increase because he's immune to it while the passive is up, so it hardly matters. But it's okay-ish, I guess. So yeah, not really that many changes. Just the silence, I would say, is the best one. Unfortunately, they missed again a lot of opportunities. They could have said that you are invincible until you land the first hit. That would have been a lot better because right now they can one-shot you. If you had that invincibility, this could have been easily best in slot on a lot more units. And especially, I'm thinking about Kronos Yuri, would have loved like invincibility up until the cast of the first hit, or like you are invincible as long as you have the ambition effect. That would have been great. So she could have cast the first special move easily, guarantee that it lands, have more damage, also apply a 5-second silence, and then for all we care, she can die. So that would have been amazing. Unfortunately, we just got that extra energy that means very little for a lot of units. So again, not really happy about these changes. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Raihanna, but from my point of view, the same value as before, mainly just a little bit better, but nothing substantial. In terms of usage tips, I've not even changed it. I don't think there is anything different, to be honest. And I also have not changed all the like association to the units. So we have as best in slot for Blarod, Ascanor, Kisea, Michael, and Misang. I don't even think it's best in slot for some of these, to be honest. Like for Blarod, maybe yes, maybe for Blarod in Adventure could be best in slot. For Michael, I think it's better if we keep him alive so that they can also use the HP recovery block and energy recovery block, even though this unit is not really used. Okay. Kunkisea, also not really used, but I also think maybe there are some better sets. Probably L now would be a bit better, but she can use it. I think she can also leverage the extra status effect immunity and energy increase. So why not? But you have to keep her alive. So that's a bit of a problem. For Misang, she needs to land the first hit. She's close range, so it's not like Blarod that can throw a grab from the distance. She needs to reach the enemy. So with Raihanna, she might die before she even touches the enemy. I think Bari would be better on her, but it's okay. I mean, Rihanna is also perfectly decent. Escanor might be the unit that benefits the most here, just because it was already using this set for the 3-second AoE silence. Now it is 5, so definitely an improvement. If you can keep him alive, then the extra energy might be okay, but I think the special move, if I remember correctly, is just single target. Not really that great. The damage is negligible, and the status effect is only, again, single target, so kind of irrelevant. But fine. For the additional units, we have Spear Baron Act that could actually run it quite well if survivability is not an issue. Then you can run it because you are going to have more energy so that you can spam the special move. Even without it, she's gonna spam the special move anyway. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But a 5-second silence on 2 to 3 enemies on average is not bad. So why not? I guess. But again, nothing insane. It's still the same value as before. Beta definitely can leverage it a bit better now with the extra energy. He can spam more special moves, which is most of his damage. The issue is that this effect is triggered after 10 seconds, which is normally when the passive effect ends, unless you get a kill before that. So not that great. And also they buffed Doris, which is now best in slot for beta, so yeah, not really that great. Cassano, similar to Barod, but you want this guy alive throughout the whole fight, so you normally don't really run Rihanna. You could, if you don't rely on him, like on himself for survivability, you have something else that can keep him alive, then you can run Rihanna because the extra energy will benefit him, will keep up the energy recovery block almost permanently, so that would be good. Also, the status effect immunity would be nice to have. So if you can keep Cassano alive, I think this set is better than Bari, but that's quite the big if, I think. Other relevant unit I already mentioned, Kranos Ayuri. If it had invincibility, it would have been best in slot, no doubt. Now I think you're kind of forced to run Bari just to get the first special move off. The rest of the units don't really benefit much from anything. Maybe Ayuri, with the extra energy, she can keep up the special move a bit more reliably, but again, not really that many benefits. So, whatever. It's just some miscellaneous units. There is nothing that really seemed to take a lot of advantage from the improved Ryan effect. So we can leave it at that and we can start talking about Doris. Now, Doris is a lot more interesting. They definitely did a massive buff to this set. The 2-piece before gave 10 swiftness, now it gives 20, and it also became unremovable. So this is already really good. Then for the 4-set effect, before it was a 200% attack barrier to allies in the back row. Now this is 4 times the value. It is 800% attack as a barrier to the allies in the back row. This is going to last for 10 seconds and does not stack. When the barrier is active, the ally with the barrier is going to get 40 swiftness. This is double the amount as before. Before it was 20, now it's 40. Really good, especially when you are on like the swiftness decrease floors. Those are really annoying, and Doris can help a bit with that, so really good. And on top of that, when the barrier is destroyed, the energy of all enemies decreases by 300. This is a really, really good utility that they added to Doris, making it really, really strong. Again, for the swiftness debuff floor, or also the energy debuff floors, just in general, is really valuable to make sure that the enemies don't cast the special move before your team. Really, really nice. Additionally, every time a special move is used, Doris Barrier is regenerated. This has a 5-second cooldown, but it's still good. I mean, it's the same as Runda, they apply the same logic. When you use a special move, you're going to regenerate the barrier. Really good stuff. You can have the 40 swiftness throughout most of the fight, at least on the key units. You can also decide to put like a frontline unit in the back row so that they get a shield, they go to the enemy team, they lose it, and they decrease the enemy energy. Then when the wielder of this set uses a special move, the shield is refreshed on that frontline unit, that is going to lose the shield and apply again 300 energy decrease. So this is a really good buff. I really like it. I gave S rank to this ignition weapon now, so the same as Runda, Bari, and also the other one that I just forgot that they just buffed, L. Okay, so really, really strong. The main difference, I would say, is that it's a bit harder to recommend this one as a main set for units. It's more situational, I think. Now we have a lot of units that want to run Runda, and so I think you will find yourself in a lot of situations where you have two Runda users on the same row, because maybe you have three Rundas on the same team. It happened to me quite a lot, and now I can swap one of those out and give them a Doris. But it's not, to me, that much of a permanent set. It's more like a situational one. I have a few presets ready. When I need it, I will just deploy it on one of the units that I have in the team. That's how I see it. There are some units that can run it as a main set. We're going to cover that, obviously. But this is probably the use case I would recommend. I don't think there are that many that can run it 24/7 as the only set. It's more situational than Runda, I think. Then for the usage tips, I changed it a bit. I just mentioned the buffs, nothing major. I said that the units that can use this one the best are units that already have good survivability, so maybe a lot of invincibility or untargetability. That's really good to have. Or just units that you don't care if they survive or not. There is also a use case where I use Doris before the buff as well on units like Yellowy and Gosang for the most part. So I deploy them. If they die, I don't care. They already provided the buffs. That's kind of the logic. I also wrote not to use two Doris set on the same team because they would buff the same back row and the swiftness buff would not stack. So that's just additional recommendation, but that's fairly obvious. And the rest of the things here in the usage tips are not really too important, other than the fact of what I said before, that I don't find a lot of units that can run it as a main set. So I recommend to have a couple Doris ready as presets so that you can assign them when needed. So here I tried to assign this set as best in slot to some units, and I think for some of them is really good. So I'm going to obviously go through all of them one at a time. We have 003. She has great survivability because when she's in the special move, she cannot die. So that's already good. And she has a lot of buffing in her kit for red allies. And adding this swiftness buff on top is fairly decent. She is not a unit that you use frequently, but if you're using her, maybe you can consider giving her Doris permanently. Is fairly good. We also have Anna. I was running Anna, if I remember correctly, I think on Bari, but I did not care whether Anna was alive or not. Usually, when there is Anna, there are also some units that can keep the team alive fairly well. So at times she didn't even take damage, or she would have stayed alive even without Bari. So I decided to give her Doris permanently. I think it's perfectly fine because if she dies, I don't care. She already did the early grouping. That was 90% of her job. The extra, I don't know, jolt from the special move or the silence from the bunny or whatever is not as important as the early grouping from the bunny. So for me, for all I care, she can die. I will just give her Doris, so at least she can buff the backline and provide the energy decrease at least one time. Then we have Beta. Beta will survive for 10 seconds regardless. Having extra swiftness will also help him cast more stuff, but not too important. What is good is that it's going to provide that barrier to the backline. It will use special move quite a few times, so it will also refresh it, and it will provide that energy decrease multiple times. So from a 0 dupes beta, we have early grouping, we have just this effect that is going to give swiftness to the backline and also energy decrease. All of that is fairly good for a 0 dupes unit, and I think is best in slot for that guy. Absolutely. Then another unit I ended up giving Doris as the best in slot is XSR plus Dawon. The main reason is that she's not a DPS. She's untargetable for 20 seconds, so it's unlikely she's gonna die. I Obviously, would have recommended Barry for extra survivability normally, but I think the value you get from Doris is so good, she can definitely run it as the permanent set. She's going to benefit from the 20 swiftness, and then the team can benefit from the additional swiftness and the energy decrease. It is really, really good. If she ends up dying too much, then you might want to switch to Barry. The other Dawn, so the SSR plus Dawn, is a DPS. I would not recommend running Doris on DPS units, mainly because it's better to have a support run it so that the unit can take the benefits without losing the survivability that another set might give or the extra damage that another set could give. So for SSR plus Dawn, she doesn't spam the special move as often, so she will land a lot of basic attacks, and L is really good for survivability in that case. For this Dawn XSR plus, L is kind of bad because she will cast special move most of the time. She will be stuck in animations a lot, so you lose out on the hit barrier quite a lot. Barry, always good on both, but yeah, that's kind of beyond the point. So I think Doris is perfectly reasonable on that unit. Gosang, I already mentioned her before. We only care about the buff that she's going to give at the beginning. This is just going to give an additional 40 swiftness to the backline. That's it. And the energy decrease, obviously. So perfectly fine. If Gosang dies, we're all happy, I guess. Obviously, I mean, yeah, whatever. So we don't care if she survives for the whole fight. We can give her Doris and don't even think about it. Same thing for Yellowy that we have here in the next row. So Yellowy is the same thing. She's going to buff one unit and then she can die. She did what she had to do. Then we have Kun Mashini, basically the same as Beta, in the sense that she cannot die for at least 12 seconds, and normally is way more than that. She benefits a lot from the extra swiftness, because she can now cast more active skill, more special move, and extend her immortality. Really good stuff. She can also spam the special move quite well, so she can refresh the barrier a lot. And if you pick her also, like if you place her in the backline as well, she's going to have the shield that she will break all the time. And that's going to provide that consistent energy increase on the enemies. So really, really good on Datakun Mashini as well. Then we have Revolution Bomb. Now this one might be a bit weird to some of you, but since this guy is not normally used as a main DPS, is more of a sub DPS / utility, and his base durability is really strong, you can run Doris without worrying about him dying randomly. He will still die every now and then, obviously, but not as frequently. And he can provide a lot of value thanks to the extra swiftness to the team. So this is definitely insane for a sub DPS / support Revolution Bomb. If you are running him as the main DPS, I would still go L, but yeah, I think most people are running him as a sub DPS and utility, so Doris is definitely best in slot in that case. Yellowy, we already mentioned. Then we have Yeon Hee. I don't even know if it makes sense to talk about her, but she already has a revive in her own kit, so she's not gonna die that quickly. And providing some extra utility with the energy decrease and the swiftness buff is really good. The alternative would have been L or Barry. So, in that case, you don't really do much for the team. Doris is definitely better in that scenario. Then for the can be used by, for some reason I forgot to remove Doris as the alternative on 003. I will do that. So we can ignore that. We have obviously most of the supports, actually basically all of them, just because this set, as I mentioned before, you can run it on whoever you want. It hardly matters. Just keep in mind you need somebody to keep the units and the team alive. So it's not like you can easily spam it on everyone. But if your team is on point, you can add this one on literally whoever you want. So some of the key units we can mention that are not the typical support, that doesn't synergize too much with the set itself, but it's just, again, to provide the extra value, would be a unit like Yugo. That is not a support, obviously, but she could benefit from it because she likes the swiftness to spam skills a bit more and keep up the shield a bit better. And yeah, you could just give it to her and also place her in the back. She's going to have the 60 extra swiftness most of the time because her barrier is not going to break that easily thanks to the hit barrier. So it is decent. It's like a 60 swiftness buff on Hugo. I'd rather have something else and run Doris on a support so that she gets only 40 swiftness, but it's going to be basically as good as the other one. So I don't know. Let me know what you think about Hugo. Same thing for other DPSs like Cha could also run it, but I'd rather have it again on a support. I did not even bother to give it to him as an alternative set. So yeah, just it's viable, obviously, but I don't see why you would do that. Other units that are not your typical support would be like Awakened Rock, because he has good survivability already, so he doesn't really need Barry that much. You can give him this set, and it will provide some value, but it's just, again, situational. Runda, I think, is better on Rock, but again, if you already have a Runda in that row, then definitely you can go Doris, no problem. So again, really, really situational set, I think. Sharon, same thing. I would kind of go with Runda most of the time, but you can also run Doris, will work just fine. So she's definitely also a good candidate. We have Chomray as well. You can run it on him like you're running Runda. I think Runda might be a bit more consistent, so I still left it as the best in slot. But Doris is also viable, no problem. Then we have the two Zahard. Also, in this case, they can survive for a decent time on their own. So you can just give a set to provide utility and buffs to the team. They could have had it maybe as the best in slot as well, but I don't know. I still left them with Barry so that they can survive for like 7, 8 seconds. I think 8 seconds guaranteed, which is not bad instead of the 6 they have just from the passive. So I left them with that, but it's totally viable. All the other ones are just random supports. So there's really nothing much to say. If you can afford it, and if you already have multiple rundas, you have a team that can keep them alive, just give them Doris, will work, no problem. And yes, guys, that's all for the ignition weapon buffs. Let me know in the comments how you feel about those, if you are using Doris, how you find it. And yeah, that's all. I will see you guys in the next videos with the tier list update and also the character reviews for the new units. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you then. Bye!